This is the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk on every team in the NHL.
Calgary Flames fans, it's time for Flames Unfiltered. Entertaining and controversial hockey talk with your host, Brad Baroud. Thank you, Mr. Kassian. Very undisciplined. Your antics give us the win, and now we're in first place. Thank you, Oilers. Good evening and welcome to the show. Episode 31 of Flames Unfiltered. I am the host of the show, Brad Baroud. We're recording this on Sunday night, January 12th, 2020. And we are into the dog days of the season. And you know what? Think about this, guys. A week ago tonight, we were recording. And we weren't in a playoff spot. And things were, I don't know, not real great in Calgary. 1 week later, we're in first place. That is how crazy this Pacific Division is. It's hard to explain. Well, that Edmonton game, Battle of Alberta, number 2, had a little bit of heat last night, huh? Thank you to Matthew Tkachuk, and we'll talk a little bit. Hell, we'll talk a lot more about that. Coming up in the show, you know what? I have a question for the Flames fans and for Flames management. What the hell is the howl after they announce goals at the Saddledome? I don't understand that. We're not the Coyotes. I don't understand what is going on with that. I'm not the first person to comment on this. I've seen other comments on Facebook and Twitter about this. So stupid. Like, stop it, please. Stop it. Do the yeah, baby or something. I don't know what the hell. Why do you need to do anything? It's dumb. Well, now what? We're in first place. I guess it's time to buckle down and play some hockey. Because quite honestly, I know we're on a streak here, but I haven't been all that happy up until the last couple games. Well, actually, Saturday night made me happy. And I'll explain a little bit more on that, why that game turned my attitude. It's funny how rivalry games can turn an attitude, though. On this episode, we're going to recap the Minnesota-Calgary game, talk a lot about round 2 of the Battle of Alberta, talk about Tkachuk's mind games. Are we happy with Coach Jeff Ward so far? Go through a bunch of Flames news, Harvey's Doghouse, a fan question, and preview Monday night's Flames at Montreal game.
Every team, everywhere. The Hockey Podcast Network.
Hey, the Hockey Podcast Network, which Flames Unfiltered is super proud to be part of, has another new great podcast out there. This one's called Ice Analytics. And it's a deep dive into hockey analytics, statistical analysis, and how it relates to the sport both on and off the ice. They talk trades, signings, all kinds of things, a bunch of analytics things. Last episode had attendance, and that's always interesting, is some markets draw good and some not so good. Give that one a listen on the Hockey Podcast Network called Ice Analytics.
Every team, everywhere. The Hockey Podcast Network.
Well, Flames fans, things are looking a lot better in Calgary, aren't they? A lot better. Let's talk a little bit about Thursday night's game. As the Minnesota Wild came to town. Isn't that the most boring opponent we play? Drives me crazy. It's our last time. We're done. We don't need to deal with the Wild anymore because I don't think we will face them in the playoffs. Do you? I don't. Thank God. That'd be awful, wouldn't it? Oh, why does that team bother me? I'm not the only team that bothers. I hear the guys on Fan 960 complain about it and bitch about it too. It's just not fun. And quite honestly, I didn't think the Flames played all that great in that game. Cam Talbot did get the start. We talked a lot about that prior to this game, and he did get the start. Goal scorers, let's go through them. There was not all that many. Derek Ryan gets his 8th on the power play in the first at the 4:39 mark. Hanifin Backlund assists. Zuccarello scores on a pretty darn nice shot, 38 seconds into the second. Hey, that's what the Flames are supposed to do. We've had a good run of scoring early goals in periods, and we didn't this time. Zuccarello goes top shelf on Talbot. A good goal. It's 1-1. Johnny Gaudreau gets his 12th of the year at the 9:38 mark. Monahan, Anderson assists. And that was it. That's all. We had a few open net chances towards the end of the game. Nothing happened in what we expect from a Minnesota Wild game, which was low goals, low penalties, not so low on shots, though. Minnesota had 43 shots on goal. Calgary had 37. That's a lot of shots, man. Holy shit. I'm sure the coaches were not happy with that. That was not good. That was Calgary's 4th win in a row. And that set up Saturday night's big matchup as Edmonton came to town for the Battle of Alberta. Round 2. Got 3 more of these this year. Man, oh man, oh man. That is going to get off the charts heated, I think. Holy cow. You know, let's talk about this matchup, which Calgary wins 4-3. And you know what? A wild start to the game. Both teams traded chances and traded goals early. Let's roll through them. Lindholm, 4:04 mark, gets Calgary up 1-0, his 19th. Nugent Hopkins, just over a minute later, comes right back and scores on a nice goal and a great pass from Yamamoto. 1-1. McDavid blows by Hanifin and everybody else on the ice. 2-1 at the 9:06 mark. And then at the last minute of the period, Johnny Gaudreau scores his 13th of the year, 2-2. First period, guess what? No penalties. Can you believe that? No penalties. Then, the second period, Nugent Hopkins scores. That puts Edmonton up 3-2 at the 1:24 mark. That's his 2nd of the game, 12th of the year. Dylan Dubé chips home a little odd backhander to tie it up 3-3. The 11:34 mark, still no penalties. Then at the 18:06 mark, all hell breaks loose. And we're going to talk about this in section 1 of the show tonight. There's lots to talk about when Matthew Tkachuk and Zach Kassian run into each other. Tkachuk with 3 big hits on Kassian, and he lost his mind, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. Third period, 39 seconds in, Calgary goes up 4-3 when Lindholm gets his 2nd of the night, 20th of the year. Giordano Gaudreau on assist, that one on the power play, on a critical power play, as our buddy Zach Kassian was sitting in the penalty box serving a double minor and 10-minute misconduct. Shame on you, Mr. Kassian. Thank you very much. We will take the 2 points. You guys can go home, and we will go in first place. Thank you, Mr. Kassian. Round 2 lived up to its billing. Really not a lot of penalties in this game. Not penalty filled. Besides the Kassian thing, just one other call as Hanifin took an interference call late, midway through the third period. It seemed like late because that was a point in time where Edmonton was really, really pushing. And I think everybody in Calgary was a little bit like, oh boy, here we go. When every time McDavid touched the puck, you just cringed. That guy is so dynamic and so fast that he makes you worry. Edmonton kind of did this one to themselves. Calgary gets the 2 points. Calgary both wins. December 27th beat the Oilers 5-1, now 4-3. Back-to-backs, home and away, coming up January 29th and February 1st. And then on April 4th, the teams will finalize the season. And boy, that game, when you look at the points, that game could mean a lot. And that game will be in Calgary as Calgary gets 3 at home against Edmonton, 2 up at the Rogers. Beautiful arena. And Calgary had good success there last time. 4-3, Battle of Alberta. We'll take it.
NHL news, opinions, and controversy.
Now it's time to talk Matthew Tkachuk, Zach Kassian, and the chaos that ensued. Go to the webpage, Flames Unfiltered, click on this podcast, watch the highlights of the 3 checks that Matthew Tkachuk laid on Zach Kassian. And the first thing I got to say about that is the checks were legal. There was no penalties called on any of them. The league has already commented that nothing will be done on any of them because nothing was illegal. And quite honestly, they wouldn't even look that bad if Zach Kassian knew how to strap up his helmet. The guy's a nut. His helmet flew off 3 times. I don't get it. And the good news, Calgary fans, is Edmonton's Zach Kassian will have a hearing Monday for his roughing aggressor on Matthew Tkachuk, as he punched him 3 or 4, 5 times as Matthew Tkachuk pretty much turtled. And I'm okay with that, because here's my reasoning on that. As much as I'm an old school guy, and you should stand up for yourself, here's the problem. Matthew Tkachuk knew what he was doing. Matthew Tkachuk knew as soon as McDavid hit him that Kassian was coming. And you know what? If the hits on Kassian would have been illegal, then you know what, Tkachuk, you better stand up for him and you better fight. But they were illegal. So why do we have to stand up and why do we have to fight when we're illegal? When we're legal, he's going to the penalty box. We want the power play. We don't need to fight to prove anything. We proved it. We scored. We scored on that play. Zach Kassian made a bonehead move, and we scored. We won the game because Zach Kassian cannot control his emotion and also doesn't know how to strap up his helmet. Shame on him. He's the one who blew this. And the good news is that he's got a hearing. NHL Department of Player Safety said that there'll be no discipline on Matthew Tkachuk after the controversial hits on Zach Kassian. Really? Were they controversial? I don't think so. The hits delivered on Kassian were legal. Full body checks delivered to a player carrying the puck. Exactly. That's why no penalties were called. Then, after the third one, Kassian goes nuts and starts punching Tkachuk in the back of the head, and he did turtle. Which it bothers me to see a guy do that, but when you see how it all played out and how Tkachuk didn't get a penalty and we win the game because of it, it doesn't make any sense not to do that, does it? I still believe that Lucic will be after Kassian next game. I believe that. I'm surprised it didn't happen later on in the game, or Ronaldo, maybe even that probably even makes more sense. The fireworks didn't stop at the game, though. Calgary wins. And then in the locker room, Kassian, here's his quote. He's just a punk that has to figure out that aspect of the game. It's sad because he's a pretty good player, but he's a explicitive. Starts with a P. If you're going to hit like that, you have to answer the bell once in a while, especially 1, 2, 3 times in a game. In the third, he followed me into the corner. He's clearly trying to target me, which I like. I'm standing here. I love that stuff. But he went off calling Tkachuk explicitives and belittling the way he plays. What I like the most is Dave Tippett, Edmonton's coach, said, I'd like to see him get a number. You're in a tight game. It's 3-3. Get a number and deal with it later. Deal with winning the game. Kassian isn't worried about dealing with winning games. Kassian doesn't think that way. Then Tkachuk's response was even better. Tkachuk said in the locker room after the game, I caught him 3 times there. You'd think he'd learn after the first one. If he wants to react that way, it will take the power play, we'll take the game winner, and we'll move into first place. If he doesn't want to get hit, then stay off the tracks. I love it. Those are probably going to be quotes of the year if you're a Flames fan, aren't they? We will take the 2 points, and we will head to first place.
Inside Edge Hockey News. Bringing you inside the game.
All right, let's talk a little bit of Coach Jeff Ward. And he's been around a while now since the Bill Peters debacle. Now, are we happy with Jeff Ward? Kind of a crazy question to be asking, maybe, huh? But maybe not. How does he handle this team? Has he created a winning atmosphere? I think out of the chute, yeah, he did. Then I worried about it for a while. Because I thought we lacked motivation a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And honestly, I didn't even think we played that well against Minnesota. Is there a good winning attitude in the locker room? Only the players know. We don't. Here's where we sit after Saturday night's Battle of Alberta. Calgary sits with 47 games played. They're 25-17-7, 55 points. Arizona, with one more game played, is tied with Calgary at 55 points. Vancouver, after their win today, has played 46 games. They sit at 54 points. Vegas sits at 54 also. Edmonton, 53, has fallen from first to fifth in a short period of time. In a little over a week, this top five has jumbled into a complete backward circle almost. Because Calgary was in fifth just a little bit ago. San Jose kind of finds himself out of it at 46 points, although they've won 2 in a row, 5-3-2 in their last 10. LA's dead at 40, Anaheim's dead at 39. So we've pretty much figured out it's a 5-team race. Do we feel comfortable where Calgary's at right now? I'm about 80% comfortable. I'm not going to lie, I've been very upset and very critical of the line shuffling, but I feel like we have some stability there now. And let's talk a little bit about that stability and how that plays out in the future. We have Tkachuk, Lindholm, Mangiapane, been pretty solid and regular. Gaudreau, Monahan, Backlund. Now, I think it's critical that we keep our top 6 regular, and our bottom 6 will continue probably to shuffle. We've actually kept our top 9 pretty stable now for 2 weeks. Probably that's about when I threw my biggest fit, was 2 weeks ago probably a week and a half ago, when everything shuffled on a nightly basis or daily basis at practice. Our third line been pretty stable as of late. Lucic, Ryan, Dubé. Let's talk about those 3 lines. I think the Tkachuk, Lindholm, I love Lindholm at center. I like Tkachuk. Mangiapane, I'm not sure he's a top 6 winger. And that's kind of where I feel like the target's going to be out for getting a guy. I don't know that we don't fill that Tkachuk, Lindholm, and then whoever we acquire. Then we have Gaudreau, Monahan, Mangiapane. We have Lucic, Ryan, Dubé stay together, and Backlund falls down to center. Either call it the third or call it the Ryan line, the fourth. And you make a line with Backlund, Reeder, and Bennett. I like that line. Defense, been pretty much solid and stable. Gio Brody, Hannafin Hamonic, Shillington Anderson, or Stone Anderson. I don't have any complaints there. The talk around Calgary for the last week now has been, oh no, do we have a goaltending controversy? Oh no, what are you talking about? Oh no. Didn't we want both of our goaltenders to be playing well this year? Didn't we want Riddick to get off to a hot start and prove that he's a number 1? It's what he did. It's exactly what we wanted. Didn't we want Talbot to be able to step in and win hockey games in a backup role? Yep, that's exactly what he's done. And he's done it a lot lately because we've been riding the hot hand. It's no secret Rittich has not been good the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it's because he's tired. I don't know if it's because whatever. But goalies go through ebbs and flows, peaks and lows. And thank God Talbot's hit on a high when Rittich is on a low. That's what we want, guys. We don't want our goalies fighting, but we want them pushing each other. We want them playing well. I would dare bet, and this is kind of what we're talking about, are we happy with Coach Ward? Is I wish I could be right there to find out where Rittich's at with this and what communications they've had with Rittich on this. Because I think this is a good thing right now. Now, I would go back to Rittich Monday night in Montreal, and then I'd probably give Talbot Thursday against Toronto, and I'd probably give Rittich Saturday against Ottawa. And then we go to break. And hopefully we can pick up some wins along the way. Both goalies can gain confidence. Talbot can keep his confidence. Rittich can get back in the flow. And then we can get a break. And then we go back to the Rittich 3 on, Talbot 1. Rittich 3, Talbot 1. Rittich 3, Talbot 1. I think this is a great problem that Talbot's playing great. I really, really do. I think this week will tell us a lot. If we can get Rittich going now and go into break with both of them on a high, think about what that does for the team coming back. Has Jeff Ward helped build an identity? I think we're getting there. I think Saturday night was critical. Not just because we beat our big rival, the Edmonton Oilers, but how we did. How we did it with aggressive style, too. How we made the plays when we had to make the plays. How we scored when we had the chances. Now, a week and a half ago, I was pretty critical of Ward. I didn't see where this was going. And then we ended up gritting out 5 wins in a row. This is going to be a work in progress. And Jeff Ward, to me, it seems like a very quiet guy and a guy that we're not going to really get a beat on. I think so far so good would be my response to, are we happy with Ward? So far so good. I don't think we should be naming him head coach or anything right now. I think that's can be determined by how we do in the playoffs. Don't forget that, guys. When the season started, all we cared about was the playoffs. This week will be a big test. Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. I kind of made a rule to myself when we had 5 games remaining before break. I had Minnesota, Edmonton, Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. I said we want 6 of the 10 points, and I pray for line stability. Well, we've got 4 already. Now we go on the road for 3. I'd like to up that. I'd like to get 4 to 6 now. It's completely doable. Now let's talk a little bit of Calgary Flames news. As we roll through just a couple things quickly. Calgary has recalled Alexander Yelesin, defenseman from Stockton of the American Hockey League today. On Sunday they did that. Flames are 15-5-2 since snapping a 6-game losing streak on November 23rd. Pretty good. Maybe that answers the Jeff Ward thing from the previous section of the podcast. The Flames are currently on a 5-game winning streak, but the crazy thing about this win streak is all 5 games have been 1-goal differential games. Tight games. In those 5, I don't think Calgary played well in 3 of them. But we'll take it. This is part of the process. This team has learned that they're not like last year. They've learned that they can't score their way out of trouble. They can't just flip a switch and get 3 goals and get themselves out of bad situations. They've learned that they have to lock down, be on time, start from the get-go, and win hockey games. And they've done that 5 in a row. That's a big task. And for this team to be in first place, quite honestly, blows my mind. Because last week on another podcast, I said that this team quite possibly won't make the playoffs. Boy, I'm happy, but they're making me look silly in those comments. The scheduling guy is a little bit goofy as he's scheduled 4 Canadian opponents in a row. Edmonton, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. Cal, spread that out. That's fun when we're playing other Canadian teams. Spread that out. Don't give us them all in 1 week. My God. The long break ahead is for the Flames starts soon. After that Ottawa game on Saturday, the Flames go on a 9-day break, which will go from Sunday the 19th to the 28th of January. Jeez. 9 days off for the CBA week break and the All-Star game break. And I don't know about you Flames fans, but that scares the hell out of me. I remember last year, and when we went on break, how great we were. And when we came back, how god-awful bad we were. We need to figure it out so that is not the case this year. We need to come back on fire because it's been a struggle this year, and now we finally have gotten to where we want to be in the standings, and we can't afford a letdown like last year.
Every team, everywhere. The Hockey Podcast Network.
Hey, let's win some money. I know hockey. Payline, $50,000. The Hockey Podcast Network Daily Lotto. Win big with Payline. Use promo code THPN, and you're set to win big bucks. Oh, yeah, it does take some hockey knowledge, but I know you've got that. Payline.
Every team, everywhere. The Hockey Podcast Network.
All right, Flames fans, I have struggled with this section of the show, and I wondered the last 3 or 4 weeks, why the hell did I come up with this on Sunday night's episodes? I guess I thought it was a good thing in the beginning of the year to come up with Harvey's Doghouse and to pick my player of the week that wasn't that great, that struggled. And you know what? It was so easy at the beginning of the year. I had my guy in the Doghouse, and I had 4 honorable mentions. Well, I haven't found that to be the case lately. And it's not just because Jankowski's been a healthy scratch. So leave me alone. This week, it's kind of a softie, but I got to go with it. Zach Rinaldo, no points in his last 5. I thought he was actually fairly effective against Edmonton last night. But I guess the reason I have him on this is when you look at Calgary's bottom 6, I can't help but think whether it's a guy from Stockton, or Zarnik, who's in Stockton, we can't find a more effective guy than Zach Rinaldo. And I know a lot of you guys will fall to your knees when I say this, but isn't Jankowski and just having Jankowski's reach and penalty killing ability worth more than Zach Rinaldo out there? And I know some people will crucify me because they love Zach Rinaldo and they love his toughness and they love his physicalness, but quite honestly, guys, seriously, how many tough guys do we need? Yeah, after the playoffs last year, I was the first one to say, yeah, we need to get tougher. But isn't that why we got Lucic? Do we need to be double tough when you don't even need to because nobody fights anymore anyways? Doesn't Sam Bennett bring that toughness in the bottom 6? I think so. All right, guys, let's talk fan question, and a good one this week. Is Elias Lindholm the center of the future in Calgary, or will he be moved back to wing? Well, I've thought a lot about this one too, because I was the biggest proponent of moving him to center. And then I heard that he had a conversation with Ward and that he said he would be happy to move to center as long as Ward promised him he'd give him a 12-game leeway and where he kept him at center for 12 games so he could, get accustomed to the position again. I think Ward's holding up that end of the bargain with a couple setbacks here and there, but always back in the next game. But I think what happens here does he stay at center? It's going to depend on what the Flames are able to acquire before deadline. I think ideally they'd like to have Lindholm at center. And I've liked what I've seen at center. It limits his offensive scoring just a little bit because he's so reliable and so worried about that part of his game. But I think that's the biggest trade-off, and it's so worth it. Because you are not going to win without defensively reliable people. This guy's going to win a Selke someday, you guys. This guy is a top-end center in the National Hockey League. He has been compared to Bergeron, and he deserves it because he is responsible out there. And you know what? The guy scores clutch goals. Look at this week. Look at how many clutch goals this guy scored for us. We do not win 5 in a row without Elias Lindholm. I promise you that. His responsibility on the ice is critical to this team's success. And I think ideally he'll stay at center. It just depends on what the Flames are able to acquire. One game to preview this week, and that is, well, not this week, before our next show on the Hockey Podcast Network, which, you know what, let's go over what the Hockey Podcast Network is quickly. I know most of you guys know, but it's podcasts from all 31 hockey teams, releases Monday mornings, Thursday mornings. That's podcasts for every NHL team twice a week. You cannot find that anywhere else other than the Hockey Podcast Network. And you can also find all of Flames Unfiltered's podcasts at flamesunfiltered.com. And there's also tons of Calgary news, tweets, everything, highlights. You've got it all on the Hockey Podcast Network and flamesunfiltered.com. Please check both those sites out. Monday night, Calgary into Montreal. Montreal 19-20-7, 45 points, 6th in the Atlantic. After a 2-7-1 in their last 10, they're 7 points out of a wild card spot. I'm sorry, Montreal. I don't think you're coming back from that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you're coming back from that. Their last game beat Ottawa 2-1 in overtime on a Ilya Kovalchuk goal on Saturday night. Calgary currently 25-17-5, 55 points. First in the Pacific Division. First time I've been able to say that this year, and boy, does it feel good to say that. Winners of 5 in a row are the Calgary Flames, 7-3-0 in their last 10. Another Canadian battle. I always get up for those Canadian games for some reason. I was thinking about it today. I wonder if Calgary will wear the retro whites tomorrow night. I think they are. I think I heard that. Don't hold me to it because I could be wrong and I don't want to be wrong. But I think they're wearing the retro whites. God, those jerseys look good. Flames are in first place. We got to be happy with that. Get connected. Flames Unfiltered can be found on Twitter at Flame Unfiltered. And also make sure you check out our Facebook page at Flames Unfiltered. Check out host Brad Brood on Twitter at Brad Brood. And if you like what you hear, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. You can find Flames Unfiltered on all the major podcast players. Consider subscribing to the Inside Edge Hockey News on Patreon. That'll get you exclusive content and much more. Thanks again and enjoy the hockey. Thanks for tuning in to Flames Unfiltered. Check back for more action-packed Calgary Flames talk.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network on Twitter at HockeyPodNet. New episodes every Monday and Thursday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.
This has been a production of Inside Edge Hockey News Radio, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This production is copyrighted and distributed by the Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.